In conventional medicine, prevention is more detection. Like, look at mammograms. That's not prevention. And they call it prevention, which is my pet peeve. Or colonoscopies, it's preventative care. No, that's detection. Prevention is talking about diet, talking about estrogen metabolism, hormones, lifestyle, 1 to 2 decades before. That is prevention.
Dr. Jen Pfleghaar completed a fellowship in integrative medicine and is board certified in integrative medicine. It's not just that Dr. Jen has a great education. It's not just that she has amazing medical experience. It is also her experience with the traditional and non-traditional medical system that excites me about this conversation.
We feel crazy. We're lonely because we feel crazy, and we've probably isolated ourselves from our family if we're raging or anxious. So what I've noticed is that women are...
Hi, my name is Chris Burris. I'm a longevity expert and the chief scientist at a lab focused on a longevity molecule. My primary focus is to help people live longer and better lives with science. Make sure to subscribe and share so you and your friends can live longer and better. Well, actually, so you and your friends can live beyond the norms.
Hi, welcome to the next episode of the Live Beyond the Norms Health and Longevity Podcast. Our next guest has the credentials that I'm always excited to come across. She is a board-certified physician in emergency medicine. On top of that, Dr. Jen Pfleghaar completed a fellowship in integrative medicine and is board-certified in integrative medicine. It's not just that Dr. Jen has a great education. It's not just that she has amazing medical experience. It is also her experience with the traditional and non-traditional medical system that excites me about this conversation. A little bit more about Dr. Jen. She is the co-author of the book Eat, Sleep, Move, Breathe, A Beginner's Guide to Living a Healthy Lifestyle. She has a new book out titled The Perimenopause Reset, 28 Days to Energize Your Body, Shed Weight, and Find Peace with God. She is the host of the Integrative Health Podcast with Dr. Jen. Her mission is to help clients with transformation, not just treatment. Dr. Jen, thank you so much for joining us today.
Hi, thank you, Chris. I'm excited to be here.
So before we jump into your area of expertise, I always like to go back, like much further back. What was it like growing up, little Jenny? Where did you grow up? What were your parents like? And if there was someone or some event you could pinpoint as the reason you would ultimately become an ER doctor, a podcaster, an author, what or who would that be?
Right. So I grew up in Erie, Pennsylvania, in like lots of snow there, right? So we would go to school no matter what. There was hardly any snow days. So that was very different from where I raised my kids until we moved to Tennessee. We were in Ohio and it was like a snow day all the time. But I grew up pretty healthy, except looking back, I wasn't. I would get, infections and stuff. And then I ended up having thyroid disease, Hashimoto's. But before that journey of reversing my Hashimoto's, I remember I wanted to be a doctor because my grandpa, who I love so much, he had to get open heart surgery in Pittsburgh. And I remember sitting in that hospital and the doctor coming out and us, telling us that he was going to be okay. And I'm like, this is what God wants me to do. This is what I want to do. And I remember it was not an easy road, being a female in medicine and just in general, like I didn't have a lot of friends that were pre-med and undergrad. So a lot of prayer got me through that. And then I went into conventional medicine and realized that is not where I was supposed to be and jumped ship for integrative medicine. But definitely my training in conventional medicine, it's necessary for those in functional and integrative medicine. You do need both. You need to know both.
So how about parents? Like, excited you were pursuing medical degree?
Yes.
Like, how did they fit into all of this?
Very supportive. So I was very type A personality, which a lot of doctors are. And now I'm recovering type A, but very supportive. Yeah.
I didn't know that was possible.
It is. I'm working on it. But I remember like my dad, he is a lawyer. Well, he's still technically not retired, but he was, showed that good work ethic and what it was like to be a professional. My mom was a teacher, a librarian. And I remember one of the fathers at the elementary school she worked at of one of the children's was a surgeon. And she set me up with shadowing him and all these things. So they were very supportive of my journey into medical school. And, you have to set so many ducks in a row to actually get into medical school. They don't accept everyone. It's not one of these online schools that accept everyone. Like, you do have to work hard. So it was great. And worth the hard work. But I do know, looking back, the things I know now about adrenal health and sleep and diet, I wish someone would have told me back then to utilize those things, because I probably would have been a lot healthier and happier.
Yeah, so it's interesting because you just say there's things that I know about adrenal health and sleep and maybe even nutrition. And I think, most of the people out here, right, us non-medical medically educated people are thinking that's what doctors are doing. And I still keep going back to this. You're like, no, you keep going back to this. When you go there, you believe that the traditional medical practitioner is searching for the root cause, right? And you think they find it and then the pill solves the root cause. Maybe talk a little bit about that transition and where you how you landed going, okay, I've got to go back to integrative.
Yeah, and we are not deficient in medication. And unfortunately, I went to be a DO, so doctor of osteopathic medicine. I met a DO, actually, is really funny, in an elective in gospel choir, because I had to do 18 credits every semester, because I'm like, how much are we paying for? 18? Okay, I'm doing 18. So I would do like running, and this type A, right? So I met this DO, and she's like, yeah, it's more root caused based. We do osteopathic manipulative therapies, which adjunct the body. So Dr. A.T. Still, that created DO medicine, he was an MD, and he wanted to look more for root causes. So that's what I wanted. But when you're in medical school, we are groomed to think of a disease and identify diseases and pair it with a medication. And we are like groomed that is good and that's what we should do. And you don't realize it until you're out in the real world. I was an attending and I was seeing the same people over again in the emergency room for chronic illnesses. And I'm like, medication's not helping them. We were told that medication was going to fix them, but they keep coming back to the ER. And I'm like, I look at my husband, and I was reading all this stuff on my own. I was reading about chronic Lyme and gut health. And I'm like, honey, I got to go back. I got to get board certified in this and do an actual fellowship, because I know if I don't have those credentials, people aren't going to respect me and they're not going to believe that this is really medicine, even though it should be the only medicine. So he was so supportive of me breaking off, starting my own practice while still working in the ER. And it was really hard. I have colleagues that still think I don't really practice real medicine anymore, where I have patients that are like having kidney disease reverse and autoimmune diseases go away. And I'm like, this is how we were supposed to practice medicine. So it's a journey. It was such a journey that I'm so grateful for. And I know that everything was in the right alignment for me to now actually help people the way they're supposed to be helped.
So you're going into this, even pursuing doctor of osteopathic medicine is like more root cause, right? But it's still not there. Like and I would imagine you're still not even close. Like it's aware and moving in that direction. Now, I heard, I read this piece in your book, talking about how you at one point self-prescribed. You're in medical school, you're having thyroid problems, you bring a paper to a doctor, so they're not like, it's not on your radar. You also were trying to address SIBO, asked if you should pull yourself off of gluten. They're like, oh, they haven't, there's no talk a little bit about this kind of, continued disillusionment with traditional medicine, and also where's this confidence coming from?
Yeah, it's actually pretty wild, because there are still endocrinologists out there that think you cannot reverse Hashimoto's disease. And we know that there are so many root causes, such as Epstein-Barr, which is mono. We know that SIBO can cause a problem. We know that leaky gut or intestinal permeability can cause a problem. It is in the studies. And one passion of mine is to lecture at conventional medicine conferences, to like get in there and blow their minds with the research behind this. Now, they might not have eyes to see. A lot of doctors don't, right? They're disillusioned themselves, and then pride comes in. So they're like, well, I always recommended this medication. I'm not going to say that they don't need the medication and they can heal on their own. Like, they get puffed up, and you have to let go of that. You have to say, I was wrong. Like, there are things that I prescribe medications for that I'm like, they did not need that. They needed to look for the root cause. Not that I did harm prescribing an antibiotic, but maybe we could have, done probiotics and watched and wait, or fix things a different way, or talk to them about taking probiotics with an antibiotic so we don't wipe out their good gut flora. And that's stuff in the last decade that I do now in the emergency room when I still work shifts there. If they get an antibiotic, they get a prescription for a probiotic, and I tell them how to teach it. And I talk to them about gut health, talk to them about gluten, I talk to them about processed food. This should be just part of regular conventional care. And I really hope that things are going to be changing as consumers and patients drive where money goes. I just hope that this starts to overflow and we see this become the normal.
I have this really cool picture of, I just got back from the emergency room. So what happened? Yeah, I'm going to stop eating gluten from the emergency room. So they're getting unique information, probably from the most, the part of medicine, which is maybe probably the most applicable, right? Where like if you break a leg, don't change your diet, right? Like you need to go to the emergency room. Like this is where this kind of deal with the problem up front. Yeah, I learned I'm going to stop eating gluten. I think that's pretty awesome.
That's funny. But I will say that probably like 80 to 90% of the things that I still see coming into the emergency room when I work shifts there are chronic preventable diseases or the result of it. Say you see someone with an amputation of a leg that could have been prevented 20 years ago. And it really it hurts. It hurts me because people are suffering for no reason. And why did I become a doctor? To help people. So that's why it's very, very hard to see when I work in the ER, but it lights a fire under my butt to keep pursuing, teaching people real health, how to do it. Not that we can ignore the heart attack, right? I've sent people to the emergency room all the time. I have them get scans sometimes. It's a balance, right? We just have to balance it. But prevention in conventional medicine, prevention is more detection. Look at mammograms. That's not prevention. And they call it prevention, which is my pet peeve. Or colonoscopies, it's preventative care. No, that's detection. Prevention is talking about diet, talking about estrogen metabolism, hormones, lifestyle, 1 to 2 decades before. That is prevention.
So you mentioned that doctors, so you get the opportunity to speak, you're presenting papers, right? So if it's just you saying, hey, this is what's happened in my clinic and my patients are all better, that would not land at all, right? You're actually presenting peer-reviewed published research, which ostensibly can open their eyes. And yeah, you're forcing some in this position of you were prescribing this all along and there was a better solution. But it's not their fault, right? In reality, they're just doing what the education they got told them to do. And that is in fact the best practice in that moment. It must feel really good to have, to get people shifting over, because I'm sure people are coming over up to you at the end and are like, is this real? I'm sure some of them are like, is this real? Can I actually help people? That's got to be really exciting.
Yeah, the ones that are curious will, because we've lost curiosity in medicine. We just follow protocols like robots. So do I think AI will replace those robot doctors that just follow protocols? Absolutely. But the ones that are curious and think outside the box, I just got back from a conference I spoke at on peptides on chronic kidney disease. And, we're all collaborating together and learning from, yes, peer-reviewed studies are good, but also what are we seeing in the actual population, right? I mean, have you ever found a really good recipe online and you cooked it at home and you're like, oh yeah, that did not turn out well at all. And you had to tweak it for your oven or for your altitude. So we can't just look at patients as a recipe to follow, because you'll get a really crappy cake at the end. It just won't work out.
So in one interview that I saw, you were talking about cycle syncing, and I thought that was interesting. Actually, I've shared it with a couple of friends of mine, and they're like, "Oh, that makes sense." Females, and talk about that. What is it? How is it important? And what's some good takeaways from understanding it?
Yes. So cycle syncing, the last decade in my practice, I have so many perimenopausal women, and cycle syncing works for 20-year-olds to 30-year-olds. It works for anyone menstruating. And it's really helpful because I feel like if women just take advice they find on the internet, like fasting, for example, and if they apply it to themselves, but not like with any help, sometimes it can be disastrous. So, for example, fasting, there's a certain part in your cycle that you want to do it. If you're not doing it at the right time, you're actually fighting your body and you could increase cortisol. So when we look at the cycle, there's two parts for women mainly. We have a 28-day cycle. We have different hormones on every single day of our cycle, as opposed to men who have 24-hour cycle of their hormones. So that's why men are like the same every day. And women, we're different. You get a different, I'm sure you
Version.
notice that. What?
Yeah. You get a different version. Yes.
Yes. But they're all beautiful versions, right? So we need to embrace it. So the follicular phase is the first half of the cycle, days 1 through ovulation, about days 14. This is when estrogen is dominant. This is when you are insulin sensitive. This is where you might have more energy. This is a time for you to get stuff done, kick butt. This is the time in the gym that you are going to be hitting personal records. You're going to be running those sprints. This is the time where really, like, I feel very strong in the gym. I lift really heavy weights, all of that stuff. This is when you can fast. This is when fasting is most preferred. Intermittent fasting or longer fast, like 24 hours is a good one for gut rest. 36 hours is great for gut rest, autophagy, and fat loss. That 36-hour one is what I recommend to a lot of women in perimenopause that have hit a stall. This is where you want to do keto. This is where if we're playing around with a carnivore diet for gut healing, sometimes I'll just say do 2 weeks during that first half of the cycle. Why? You're more insulin sensitive. You're not going to be craving a bunch of carbs. If you start a new diet or a new workout routine, you're going to be able to do it better. Like, you're not going to give up. Your body is tuned to doing these things that cycle, that part of the cycle. So then the second half is the luteal phase. So ovulation, day 14, 15 to day 28. This is where women get the dreaded PMS, which if you're getting PMS symptoms like bloating, cramping, headaches, heavy cycles, all of that, then that means your hormones are dysregulated or off. So that luteal phase is when our body, progesterone comes in and is like, hey, like, we're getting ready to implant a baby here. Like, we're going to calm things down. We're going to build up that fluffy endometrium in case a follicle, which ovulation is when a follicle comes out, in case it gets fertilized and sticks in there. So this is when, yes, you're going to be like wanting to just have movie nights, right? You're going to be wanting more carbs. You're more insulin resistant because your body is ramping up to have a follicle land, to have a baby. So more calories, you're going to require more calories. You're more insulin resistant. You're going to crave more carbs. And I say, like, that's okay. Like, let's not fight it. Let's have a little bit more carbs and calories, because that follicular phase is when you feel great and you could do keto. You can resist the cookies and cake. You can do your fasting. So let's not like stress about it. Like, I'm always like, yeah, let's have movie night with popcorn during my follicular phase. Like, I'm not going to stress about it. I know I'm going to get back into it. So don't like fight here. And sometimes I see women fasting, pushing the fasting during their luteal phase, and then their cortisol goes up. And then when cortisol goes up, we're depleting progesterone, and progesterone, we're stressing our body out. We need progesterone. So then you're going to have an imbalance of your estrogen and progesterone. You're going to have PMS symptoms, cramps, shorter cycles, all the things. So that's diet there. So have carbs, but have like carbs with fiber and more vegetables. Also, your estrogen was just really high. So if you have cruciferous vegetables, that's going to help detoxify out the estrogen that your body needs to get out and not recycle. And then working out. So they've done studies on soccer players in Europe, and they were more likely to tear their ACL in their luteal phase of their cycle. Okay. So we can't ignore these facts that progesterone is going to influence our ligaments, and we are more likely to get injured. So working out, I say, do not push yourself at the gym. Okay. Don't go and lift personal records. I've tried that and I've like strained my back for deadlifts. Make sure you're doing some mobility or flexibility exercises. And then you could do walk. You can walk with your weighted vest, but don't run sprints. When I run my sprints for my VO2 max, which is a longevity marker, I do it in my follicular phase. I'm not going to get hurt. And then I just do an incline walk or, more subtle things during that second half. Lift weights still. Ladies, we need to lift weights for our insulin sensitivity and for longevity. We need to lift weights, but just don't go really heavy. You could do more reps. You could still lift to failure, but just be mindful of how you feel. Now, there is some drama on the internet where people are like cycle syncing stupid and, I can do whatever I want whenever I want. A lot of those ladies have they're more androgenic. They have more dominant testosterone. So you're going to be different from me. I'm not a high androgen lady. I have my hips. I have all the things. And most women are not more androgenic. So you really have to look at each woman still individually, but still, like, you're still having that ebb and flow of progesterone and estradiol. But I don't know if you've seen like people saying cycle syncing stupid. And I'm like, well, obviously they don't work with women mainly because most women are not like more higher testosterone androgenic, and they do actually fluctuate.
Yeah, in fact, after I kind of learned this from, doing the research, sure enough, it pops up, magically, of course. Clearly, there's nothing listening to everything that I'm watching. And this, cycle syncing is stupid. But her point in this video, it was not what you're talking about. It was just like, you should feel like, do what you feel is right. And I kind of, as you were describing the very nuances, it's kind of like having an Oura ring. I don't think I need an Oura ring all the time. I kind of know what my sleep is like. I kind of but having the data for some period of time. So really being intentional with cycle syncing could help you figure out so that you don't maybe need to be so cognizant about it. It just starts to become more natural. I don't know if you have any thoughts about that.
Yeah, I agree. Absolutely. And that's the thing, like, it's just being thoughtful about it. Like, we know from that research, like, even if I feel really good, I'm not going to run sprints my late luteal phase. I don't want to get injured at my age in my 40s, and I think that, yes, we can do things, but why do we want to stress our body out extra during that luteal phase? Especially most women I work with, and most women probably listening. I mean, there's 8 million women in perimenopause right now. And I'm telling you, if they don't pay attention to this stuff, they're fighting their bodies and they're not going to feel good. I've worked with hundreds and hundreds of women. So I think that, yes, it makes you more aware of your body, and there will be outliers and there will be days, right, that you have to do things that are kind of fighting what you want. I mean, I have 4 kids. Like, today was a really hard day to get one of them ready for school, and it was very stressful. And I was driving back from dropping them off, and I felt like so exhausted. And my husband called, and I'm like, I'm just exhausted from that stress, from that stressor to getting to school, and we even lined up and did all the things perfectly. Things happen. So what do you have to do? You just have to make sure you're getting sleep and eating well, because those stressors will happen in our lives. I mean, especially in that midlife, you have aging parents and younger kids. That's a lot of stress. So yeah, I think another good example is I had a woman, and she was actually postmenopausal, but she was like, I'm going to do intermittent fasting. She was gaining some weight. This was before she saw me. So her hormones weren't really balanced yet, but she was gaining weight. She's like, I'm going to try this new trend. It's not a new trend, but it was buzzing on like Instagram a couple of years ago. Yeah. Like intermittent fasting. She gained 10 pounds. She gained weight. So I'm like, slap on a continuous glucose monitor on her while we were checking her hormones, because we were going to balance those. She was getting a big glucose spike in the morning without eating. So that was a result of her body being stressed, her cortisol, because she was stressing her body out by fasting. And literally all we did, and she lost 15 pounds, was we ate, higher protein, higher fat breakfast, like eggs, with bacon, really good sustainable breakfast. And her glucose was steady all day. And this is where, to your point about the data, you could wear it for a cycle and get a good feel on what your body does with certain foods or certain ways of eating. And then you don't really need the data anymore because you know. Now, women, continuous glucose monitor for 4 weeks because if you're cycling. Men, I mean, you could probably catch up on patterns in just wearing one for 2 weeks.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I have one. Somebody gifted me one, which is pretty
Yay.
awesome. I just haven't, part of my job is to make content. So I want this map of what the content I'm going to make, because you got these, 14 days to figure it out. So, but it's on my radar. I'm pretty excited. I have a little bit of popcorn after my lunches, and I'm like, what am I,
Yes.
how bad is that? Like, I know it's not good, but like, if it comes out to be horrible for me, but potentially, right, then I was like, okay, we got to get it with the popcorn. Not that big a deal.
Right. Well, I will warn you, sometimes it's a little sad. So cassava, so like grain-free chips spike my blood glucose. So I don't know if I have a little bit of a food sensitivity to it. Sometimes that could spike it, or if it's just because it's just starch. So if I want because corn, like mesa chips, corn tortillas won't bust my blood sugar like cassava. So be prepared to be surprised and then like, oh, but it's great. It's so great. You're going to love it.
Yeah, no, I'm excited about it, and I'm sure there's going to be things that surprise me, and that's okay. Sometimes I'm okay with optimizing, right? And if I learn that that thing that I like to have every day has to go away, whatever.
Or just do it once a week. Just do it once or twice a week instead. Yeah,
that is true. Like, I think, and that's one of the things that's really important as people are providing guidance is, hey, you needing to give up something doesn't necessarily mean you need to give it up forever, but you certainly might need to limit it in perpetuity. I love that you sprint. It's probably my favorite exercise now, and I don't know, it fell off. I played semi-professional soccer, and then I stopped, and so all I was doing was jogging, and then one day I was like, oh, let me do a sprint routine. It just feels so amazing to go out there and run as fast as you can. There's a reason little kids, and not even that little kids, getting older into high school, will just run. Like, they're like, hey, let's just race, and it feels amazing. I think we're designed to do that, certainly more so than we're designed to run a marathon. Which my wife and I have done like 10 half marathons together, and I'm like, I don't need to run any more of those.
Hey, super quick break from the podcast. Hopefully you're loving it. This is a way you can support the podcast and take advantage of a great offer. We're offering 50% off of one of our MCT bottles. MCT is an amazing oil. Add the ESS 60 molecule to it. It's even more amazing. All you got to do is leave a review on iTunes, send us a notification that you've left that review. We'll get you a coupon code that'll get you 50% off of our MCT oil and free shipping. Back to the podcast.
So let's get it. What is perimenopause? I'm interested, but why should the average man be interested in understanding kind of menopause and perimenopause?
Oh, yes. So if you're a man out there and you have a woman like 35 to 55, that could be perimenopause, right? It could be 2 years, it could be shorter for someone, but it could be up to 10 years. So this is like a decade that you're living with a woman in perimenopause, and it's premenopause. So menopause is 1 year of no hormones, no cycle. So the estradiol is flatlined, okay? And perimenopause is before that. So you're having slow decline of progesterone. And remember, progesterone is that like calming hormone that's in that luteal phase. And then you have kind of decline of estradiol, but it's kind of erratic. You can get big surges at times depending on the follicles coming out. So what we have is an increased like estrogen dominance picture, because you have an increased, you have that decline of progesterone and increased estradiol. So then that becomes even further apart. And you could have symptoms from weight gain, hair loss, anxiety, depression, cramping, bloating, hair, like everything, and sagging skin, like just so many things. You're forgetting things. And the irritability is what's really hard on marriages. And men they don't understand what's happening to their wife or their partner of so many years. And I have women that come to me and they're just like, I just don't feel like myself anymore. Or they're doing the same routine and they're just a mess. They're getting more irritable at their kids. They're not sleeping as well. And usually it is in that luteal phase. So what can happen in that luteal phase, we start having decreased progesterone. So we start having shorter cycles. So they were 28 days. Now they're 26. Now they're 25. And then they're having really bad, like bleeding stuff that they've never had before. So we can, it's all a roadmap in my book, but there are so many things that affect our hormones. So we need to look at our environment, look at our body, look at our spiritual health. But a big thing that can help is just helping our body make our own progesterone more with chaste berry. Or sometimes we're at the point where we just need to give bioidentical progesterone just during that second half or that luteal phase. But what happens is, so say your husband, you're saying to your wife, something seems off, go to your doctor. They go to their doctor 9 times out of 10, because I've seen this, I've heard this all. They're like, first of all, they say, you're just gaining weight because you're old, you're tired because you're a mother, you're depressed. And they put them on a birth control, or they offer it to them, birth control and an antidepressant, which would just make everything worse. And it usually does. So it's very frustrating to be a perimenopausal woman out there and just not getting the help that they need.
So I think like when your cycle's regular, there may be, periods where you're more emotional, less emotional, whatever, and you get plugged in and you're kind of aware of what's going on. And then now, like, it's not 28 days, it's like it's extended. And so you're out of whack with even understanding kind of how these hormones are out of whack, when they're in their kind of normal cycle. Is that some of it? It's like everything's going wonky and I don't understand exactly why.
Yeah, and kind of what you said, that they already kind of were more irritable and that kind of stuff. So that is PMS. And PMS symptoms are God's gift to us that something is wrong. So that's how we have to look at symptoms. We have to be like, something is off. There's a root cause. Like, our bodies love to be in homeostasis. Now, we do things that mess that up, like what we eat, our environment we live in, stress. But our body is supposed to be, in homeostasis. I mean, honestly, like biblically, like the curse was pain with childbirth. It wasn't like pain with every cycle, right? So this is not what we're designed for. So those symptoms usually at a younger age. So I have a lot of younger girls that come to me, their parents bring them to me, and they're teens, and their answer is, of course, put them on birth control for everything. No, you fix the gut health, you make sure the liver is operating properly and there's nothing that's clogging up the liver like a drain, so estrogen can detox properly. You put them on, the chaste berry to help their own body make progesterone, or you do the luteal phase progesterone with them instead. And I've had really tough cases where they're like, I have to go on birth control, I can't do anything else. And I'm like, no, we're going to do all these steps and put you on some progesterone luteal phase. And they're doing fabulous. Now, more emotional, yes, you're going to cry at movies a little bit more. Maybe you're more irritable with your husband a little bit, but it shouldn't be like everyone's tiptoeing around you, right? So I think there's a difference, and we shouldn't be having really heavy cycles where we're soaking through tampons. That is another red flag that you're estrogen dominant, or there's an imbalance between the estrogen and progesterone. And it's really hard to explain this to women. Number one, that's kind of why I wrote the book, because we go through it piece by piece. You have to hear it a couple times and really understand it so you can put it into action.
So in going through your book, I looked at the index. It kind of felt like the very beginning was, here's perimenopause, and then it was just chapter after chapter. And I think I'm into maybe chapter 2 of just things to do, like just great advice. Is that fair? Like, you just continue? Because I didn't finish the whole book, so I here's an opportunity to kind of share what the book is about in its entirety.
Yeah. So doctor in Latin means to teach. So my job as a doctor is to teach you health. My job is not to make like a forever customer, right? Now, granted, my husband says it's a terrible business model, but I do have patients that see me. I mean, it is, right? But I do have patients that see me continuously because your health is like an onion. We have to keep peeling back layers and peeling back layers. And then after that, I do still have patients that are on hormones, so they still need to see me to prescribe, or we're moving into cool things like longevity medicine. Like we're healthy, but we want to optimize aging. So those are the cool things that I like to work on patients once we get them better. But perimenopause, you have to look at your environment. I mean, what if I told you that if you live in a moldy home, that could make your perimenopause experience worse? Because it's your liver, that's one of the things that can clog up your liver. So if your estradiol, your estrogen is not getting metabolized properly, that can lead to, decreased, worsening estrogen to progesterone imbalance. Plus also, if we're not metabolizing our estrogen properly, that can lead to things like cancer, where we know breast cancer is so common nowadays, and it should not be common. We should be preventing it in the 20s and 30s. But perimenopause is such a good time to look at your environment. Now, some people, they might be like, oh, I already do all that. Like no fragrance in my house. Like I use, glass cooking containers, all of that. But there's still probably some things that you could do a little bit better. Then we move on to body, and we really have to understand what estrogen does in our body. So it's metabolized through the liver, but also in the gut. So if our gut is not healthy and we have something called high beta glucuronidase, we could be recycling that estrogen that we work so hard to get to the gut. So kind of cool things like that. So our gut needs to be properly working. And honestly, if we have leaky gut or intestinal permeability, we have inflammation, and we're at increased risk for autoimmune diseases. And not only autoimmune diseases, but immune problems. And cancer is an immune problem. It's a dysfunction of the immune system. So it's pretty cool because our body kind of works like that. Like, everything needs to be running well, like a car. So like giving up gluten could be something that could help. Some people are celiac, some people are non-celiac gluten sensitivity, where today's wheat just causes inflammation in their gut and causes that tight junction to loosen and open. So you have things that are coming from the outside into the gut or into the body and the bloodstream looks at it and freaks out and then produces antibodies. So that's why women have so many autoimmune diseases. And I healed from Hashimoto's, which is an autoimmune disease. And then part 3 that you haven't gotten to yet is spiritual. So what I've noticed is that women are spiritually attacked during perimenopause. Why? Because we feel crazy, we're lonely because we feel crazy, and we've probably isolated ourselves from our family if we're raging or anxious. So the enemy is going to attack.
Divorce happens a lot too, right? In this
yes,
time frame.
thank you.
Divorce,
yeah. Chris, I'm glad you said that, because that's like a big thing I noticed, like in the past decade of treating perimenopausal women in my integrative medicine office. Or you talk to someone, like I remember my husband was telling me about someone that got divorced, so, a long time ago or something. I'm like, was the wife in perimenopause? Was she in her 40s? And he's like, yeah, that is one. And I'm like, bingo. So this is why I, like you said, like, why should men be paying attention to this? Because men, if you fix your women's hormones and their cortisol is balanced, they're going to want to have sex more. And you guys are going to be intimate. You're going to connect. I actually just saw a patient before this, and we did her saliva hormones, and her testosterone was great. It was perfect. And I'm like, it's stress like that. Like women think it's my testosterone that I have no sex drive. No, it's your cortisol. So part of that cycle syncing, if you're not working against your body, you're going to have more normalized cortisol also.
Yeah, that was one of the stats. I think peak divorce time is between 45 and 55, probably not coincidental with perimenopause and kind of the menopause journey. One of the things, as I was doing background research, it was very clear that faith is very important to you. So I wanted to kind of bring up how do you see faith, maybe in general, and then more specifically to perimenopause?
Yes. So I am a Christian and a believer in Jesus. And I have noticed in my practice, like sometimes we will get patients just, they look perfect on paper. They're taking all the supplements, they're doing all the things, but they're still missing piece. They're still missing something. And I know me personally, my journey, when I was so focused on being a doctor, on being a mother, like I didn't really have peace until I focused back on Jesus. So I think that the peace that we're looking for, and some of the things that we're trying to look for peace in, or, drinking or overeating, that impedes our health too. So I have seen a lot, like in my practice, where I know that having faith and, reading the Bible and giving up control is really important. Like, we're really like not in control of things. I mean, we do have to do things to help our health, but ultimately, trying to over control every situation can bring stress, and that can disrupt peace. So we see that, whether you're at work or the house or driving in your car, you can get your cortisol and you can get all upset over everything. And part of that could be, lack of forgiving. It could be pride. So there's a lot of different things. So working on that, and I include a devotional where you probably learn a lot about me, or you might think, wow, like she's just like me. I've had situations like that. Like we're all going through hard things. And then when we have hormone problems on top of it, it can make us feel very bonkers. So it's not, we're all going through things. So definitely having faith and having, putting your trust in someone other than yourself can be an amazing part of healing that really is missing a lot, I've seen.
No, I think having something bigger than you, and whatever that looks like, religion or universe or whatever, I think is actually important. And a lot of that will drive you to focus on other people. And when you're focused on other people, there's value, like the data. Yeah, especially in terms of longevity, right? Like focusing, being there for other people will improve your longevity. Now, you've mentioned kind of very specific hormones, talking about luteal phase hormones. I don't think I've heard that before. Is that something that's happening a lot, or have you honed in on something that's a little bit different than other people's approaches?
No, it's pretty consistent. That luteal phase. So we want to replace like what is there with hormones. We don't want to be super therapeutic. So I will warn people, don't go to a med spa and get a bunch of pellets. Go to someone that has been trained. So I trained, my mentor is Dr. Pam Smith. She did the foreword in my book. She's amazing. And the goal is just to replace. It's not to be super therapeutic, because that's when we get side effects. So that luteal phase, we check the progesterone. If the progesterone is low, we can replace it. It's not that we're trying to be super therapeutic. It's not that we're trying to overshoot. It's interesting though. There's so many fertility problems right now. Check their progesterone days 19 to 21 of their cycle, where progesterone is supposed to be at their peak. It's usually low. And I've had a lot of patients where to get pregnant, we had to supplement their progesterone and then even carry it on through the first trimester. And why is this? I think it's a lot of environmental factors, stress included, but also BPA, plastics. I mean, you go to Costco, because we have a lot of kids, so we shop there a lot, but everything's wrapped in plastic. We have plastics in our water. Like my family knows that when I have to drink out of a plastic water bottle, I'm like, ugh. And I do sometimes, but my 13-year-old, if anyone has teens out there, you know how they like to tease. He's like, Mom, look at plastic water bottle. And he'll like squeeze it a couple extra times, because I told him it releases extra BPA when you squeeze it. And I'm like, yeah. I mean, I have to laugh, like, because if not, like they know, your kids listen, they watch you. So I do tell them, I'm like, plastic disrupts testosterone, that BPA. So if you're a man listening out there, at the gym, like I've teased people I know at the gym, but like when these bodybuilders are drinking out of plastic water bottles, I'm like, dude, like, what are you doing? Like, you're disrupting your testosterone. Like, you are literally like this doesn't make sense. So, but yeah, so little things like that can really cause that to be skewed. So is this new? Not in the, integrative functional world. We've been doing this luteal phase replacement for a while, but is it new to, people that haven't had advanced hormone, like education? Correct. Because there is prometrium out there, which is, you can prescribe it, the conventional medicine doctor, and that's bioidentical progesterone, but it is in peanut oil and it is immediate release. So compounded, you get E4M progesterone, which is an extended release overnight, and you take it at night orally, and it helps with sleep. But you can also get topical progesterone too. So I wouldn't say it's new. It's just because the drug companies aren't in there giving you lunch, because it's not taught, because it's not a real big drug company influence in medical school, they're teaching you birth control and saying it's the best. I remember one of the first conferences I went to as a medical student, I got like a little business card holder engraved with my name, and it was from like an oral contraceptive company. And I'm like, oh, that's so cool. Like you can control your period. And I'm like, it's not bioidentical. It's dangerous. Oral estrogens are dangerous. We need to say that. They affect fertility. They affect cancer rates. Like they are dangerous. And, it's just get handed out like candy. I mean, you can't blame your doctor. They don't know, and they're not curious. They're just trying to pay back their medical school debt, and you would think that my phone would be ringing off the hook from my patients getting better and them telling their doctor about me. No, but it has happened where I have influenced some doctors to go do an integrative medicine fellowship, or maybe just be more curious about what the body can actually do to heal. So it's coming. It's just a broken system. So for a patient, you need to advocate. You need to, listen to people that are educated and actually have proper credentials and proper training, and then apply that. And if you go to a doctor and they're just handing you a prescription and not getting to the root cause, you might have to, use cash, because most of integrative doctors are cash based. I equate it to when you have a car and you have car insurance. The insurance is just for when something really bad happens. It doesn't cover the oil, the gas, or the tires. So why do we think that insurance is going to cover all the things that will actually keep us running for longevity? So it's kind of like a mind switch. And I get it. We pay a lot for regular insurance, even though we barely use it. But I do, if there's an emergency, you want it there. That's why it's insurance. So I know it's hard. It is a really difficult concept, but unfortunately, with how things are, we just need to suck it up and make sure we're taking care of our health.
It sounds like you are just continuing to do what you did even when you were in medical school. And of course, your motivation when you were in medical school was you were trying to solve your own health problems, but you were, in fact, educating doctors back then, and you're continuing to do that. That's really cool. Now, this question just popped in my head. So you're kind of optimizing luteal phase hormones. At the same time, we're in perimenopause, so the phases are getting all jumbled up. How do you do that?
Yeah, great question. So sometimes I have women, so we're talking, so perimenopause, early perimenopause is that kind of point where women start to feel that subtle difference because they can tell something's off. This is where sometimes chaste tree berry can help, if not progesterone. Stress strategy. This is like, the book is meant for those people that will really, really, then mid perimenopause, same thing. The book will help throughout and even perimenopause, but roadmap wise. So then your middle perimenopause with progesterone given luteal phase, you can still cycle normally. They'll be good. Now late, like you're a year or two out from menopause, your cycles, they can start to be like 30 to 40 days, even with the progesterone. Sometimes then I reevaluate, do we go to continuous progesterone? So every night, depending on what they're doing. This is where I will introduce estriol, which is an estrogen. So I do not give estradiol during perimenopause. It would be very rare, because if we have a spike in estradiol plus you add more estradiol, how big is that gap going to be before estrogen and progesterone? Progesterone helps prevent, keeps estradiol in check so there's not cancer cells growing and all of that. So I will do estriol, which is a weaker estrogen on the face for the sagging skin and in the vaginal area if they're starting to have dryness, pain with intercourse, that kind of stuff, because that will wake up those receptors and help. So there's solutions that are low risk, high reward for every single phase in perimenopause. But yes, that's a great question, Chris, that when that cycle, I'll have patients and they're like, well, I had like a 40-day cycle, but now I'm back on track. And I'm like, okay, we're going to keep an eye on it. We're going to test it. We might go to continuous progesterone. Let's see how you do. And then I ask, how's sex life? How's your facial skin? Are any sagging, any concern? Because I have a patient that she's a farmer and she's like she's 60, 64 now, I think. And she's still in perimenopause. She still is making estrogen. So it really differs for every woman. A good predictor that you could do is this: if you have aunts, sisters, your mother, you can say, hey, when'd you go through menopause? That can be really helpful. It's a red flag if they're like, oh, I had to have a hysterectomy due to heavy bleeding in my 40s. Well, then you're like, okay, we have an estrogen metabolism problem here. And then you should get a urine estrogen metabolite test and see how you are metabolizing estrogen. And I talk about that in the book, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, how you get rid of your estrogen in your liver, because it can get in the weeds a little bit. So you can pick what you want out of it, but know that we need to have that recycling and garbage center working correctly, or you will get heavy periods and your doctor will tell you to go on birth control, get a hysterectomy, or get an ablation. Those are symptoms. So that's not treatment, in my opinion.
So one thing that keeps coming up is mitochondrial health. What does it play a role in perimenopause? And I know that it's involved in hormone production, but talk about kind of that role.
Yes. So mitochondrial health. So if you feel tired, if you need coffee to get you up in the morning, then you have mitochondrial dysfunction. It is so rampant, right? And what could cause mitochondrial dysfunction? Well, environmental toxins, epigenetics, genes turning on or off in the mitochondria. It could be lack of sleep. It could be poor nutrition. So it could be a lot of different things. In our mitochondria, there are powerhouse and they are throughout the body. So the heart and the kidneys are actually one of the more mitochondrial dense organs, but also ovaries are very mitochondrial dense. So we do want to start working on mitochondrial health by, you could have supplements like, good B vitamins can help, CoQ10 can help, but really beef liver, organ meats can help with mitochondrial health. But really, when we go back to it, like avoiding a lot of environmental toxins and just, making sure you're sleeping well, keeping stress low can really help the mitochondria. But yes, if you're feeling tired, then you probably need some support with your mitochondria. And then as we age, we start getting poorer and poorer mitochondrial function. So that's another thing that aging well, and you can kind of see like oxidative stress, like, someone that has like an apple, you cut out an apple and it gets brown. That's oxidative stress. So that can happen in our cells and in our mitochondria. So think of someone that you see that has smoked and drank alcohol versus someone that hasn't. They're aging more. And keeping blood sugar down is going to be helpful for that too. A lot of things with mitochondria, because like you said, it's important in hormones and aging. So definitely making sure you're keeping like the pillars of health good: nutrition, movement, sleep, and breath work. Those are really important too.
Yeah, and we just keep hearing more and more about mitochondrial, so I wanted to kind of throw that in there. Well, I'm about to get to wrap up questions. Is there anything maybe that we missed? We'll get with the links for your books. So I'll ask that here in a second. But anything like you want to share that maybe I didn't touch on in your book? Just
like women in perimenopause, and then husbands of women in perimenopause, like, they're not broken. You can feel really good. I love how I feel right now. I'm 43 and in perimenopause, and you can get it together. You just have to know what to do. You need like a roadmap. So definitely avoid the antidepressants and the birth control because you can do it a different way. So they're just, you're not broken as a woman. I just have so many women coming to me and they're gaslit by their doctors. So don't accept that. Don't accept that at all. Just say, okay, my body's changing, but I'm going to roll with it just like a tide and it's going to be good.
Okay, very good. All right, here are our wrap-up questions. Dr.
Okay.
Jen, do you have a target age that you want to live to?
Oh, okay. Probably 89 or 92. I mean, I want to, I'm hacking with the bioregulators, Dr. Cavison's work. So I want to keep aging in reverse is my goal, but also live like a normal lifestyle, like not be a weirdo about it and still enjoy things. I don't want my kids to think I'm like a weirdo or idolizing a longevity. That can be an idol. So probably 89 or 92. I want to continue practicing and lecturing like for a long, long time. So I don't want to ever retire is my goal.
I might have some bad news for you. Your kids already think you're weird, so because mine think I'm weird. So
yes, okay, yes, weird is good, but I don't want them to like think that is the most important thing in my life, like living long and like. Does that make sense? But yeah, they 100%.
Think I'm weird. And constantly, their kids are always going to think we're weird. Now, how long do you think humans can live?
Oh, well, if you look at right back to Dr. Cavison's work, I mean, you could hack into this biological reserve that is, 25 to 30 years. So maybe 110. If you look at that model, yeah, I have some good slides on that I'll have to share with you because maybe, but we have to understand that if there is disease, living long, morbidity versus mortality, you don't want to be miserable living long. So that is kind of the key.
Oh, excellent. So I jotted down 110. What are 2 to 3 protocols, habits, mindsets? Let's call them shortcuts, because everyone likes shortcuts, to longevity and a long health span that you can share.
Okay. Maintaining proper glucose control. So stabilizing blood glucose and being metabolically flexible, number 1. Number 2, getting good sleep. And number 3, prayer meditation.
Excellent. And are there maybe 1 or 2 things that people get absolutely wrong regarding longevity and a long health span?
Yeah, I would say excessive cardio.
I like it.
Yeah.
And Dr. Jen, how can people contact you?
I hang out on Instagram mainly. I'm trying to branch out more, but it's Integrative Dr. Mom, Integrative DRMOM. I also have a YouTube on that. And if you go to either Healthy by Dr. Jen, that is kind of blogs there, protocols, or then if you just want to grab my book, really easy, drjenbook.com. And grab my book. I have a perimenopause course coming out. So lots of exciting things because I love to teach and I love to help people out there.
Excellent. And what in the near future are you excited about?
I mean, this book launch has just been like a lot. So I guess I'm actually excited to get back in. I'm going to start accepting new patients again. So maybe just getting more patients because I love patient care and I'm really excited for that.
Excellent. So you can find her, Integrative DR Mom, Integrative Doctor Mom, on IG and on YouTube, healthbydrjen.com, and then drjenbook.com. All of those, you can find her and connect with her. Dr. Jen, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Chris. It was a great conversation.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Live Beyond the Norms podcast. Make sure to subscribe and follow. Also, make sure not to be that guy, the guy sharing this podcast with people who are not interested in living beyond the norms. If you would like to learn more about the ESS60 molecule, the molecule responsible for the single longest longevity experimental result on mammals in history, a full 90% extension of life, visit myvitalc.com. That's myvitalc as in carbon.com.